So I think the driving question was like important and very well worded, because although it like happened 100 years ago, World War I did, it was like it brought it kind of into the modern day, and that was important for us to be able to connect to it and like be able to build a project off of that.
I think that this project, unlike any other, requires you to really work as a cohesive team, because if you aren't aware of what your team members are doing, you can't be successful on the night of your presentation. And when you're given a lot of creativity and room to make a project your own, you can't just work as an individual to make a product, because when you're the only one on board with a plan and your team isn't going along with it, then your museum isn't going to be what you want it to be. And so when we work together, even like just assigning task lists and things like that, you have to decide who's going to do what. And you have to all make sure that even if you're doing an individual part, it works with every other group member's part as well.
Just like walking around and seeing each of the individual exhibits, you can really tell that there's so many different paths you can go down. Even though it's like World War I may seem like a very specific topic, people had like missiles that they built and huge life-size like gas masks, and we built a stretcher, and they had a whole booth about photography, and we had a real live trench, and people go all above and beyond, and it's really amazing because you wouldn't really think that would be the end product, something that's so different and so unique.
People will just come in and look at your booth and then leave, but that's not how you get people to vote for you. And so you have to be able to like take someone and make them want to listen to you. And I think that that's a really important skill that you learn from doing this project.
And I think that's what makes this project really fun, but also really challenging, because it's not like a regular presentation where you're presenting a PowerPoint to an audience that is just straight information. You have to figure out a way to incorporate the information in a really engaging, creative way.
That's why this project is so different, and I think the best one in my opinion, just because you're giving the same content to every person, but just in a different way too. And that's what makes it so engaging, I think, not just for the audience, but also the people delivering the information. And I like that portion of it.
I think it connects to what you were saying about applied learning in particular, right? Because you read All Quiet on the Western Front, and then all of a sudden you're in your booth, you're going to play a soldier, right? And then like, how do you know what's inside a soldier's head? Well, it's a good thing we read All Quiet on the Western Front, right?
Exactly.
Which is our first person narration of a soldier's experience.
I think that the project was really well managed by teacher facilitation, because we had the task lists to follow that broke down due dates for each component of the project. So by having that task list, I think that there was really good setup for check-ins, because you could tell when you needed to have a check-in, like when, for example, like the photo essay was due, there would be a check-in to make sure that that component of the project was complete before moving on to working on other components, so that the work wouldn't pile up for a group and be like, I need all of this work checked the day before museum night. So there's definitely that staggered check-in points from teachers. Do you want to add on about Dino Pad?
Yeah, well, I think that even though the teachers did play a really big role in that aspect, it was also a lot of the peers. Like on the actual night, there's like maybe 3 teachers and there's 100 kids, so you can't always get your attention and always have questions being answered. And so we often went to peers who were in the same room as us, who had opinions about where to hang up things, or if it made sense to have it in a certain order, and that was really vital to our group.
As for Dynapack as well, like this is the first really big project that I feel a lot of students get a chance to participate in. And so when we get to hear advice from people who have already done it, that really shaped what my expectations were and helped me and my group to be able to understand like how big of a project it actually is and prepare for that.
The teachers know a lot about the information, but pretty much everyone else is really curious, and that fields for very exciting and engaging conversation. It's almost less of a presentation and more of you talking with the person and them learning, and you really having the opportunity to give back almost. And that's really a great feeling to have when someone's super interested in your topic. And I think that's like a sign of whether or not your exhibit was successful, if the project was successful, is if you have the community excited to learn and the students excited to learn and to teach.
I think that speaks to the academic rigor too, because it's one thing to learn all this information, but it's another thing to like teach someone else's information and to respond to those people's questions about your information, right? So there's actually like a 3-tiered kind of element of rigor that happens.